Hello, this is MrChabry, and today we're going to talk about the rock types that you can find in Pokemon X and Y. And you might notice that the website we're using is actually different. Before I was using Smogon. I'm going to try out using a Pokemon database. The main reason is because I got a comment that did kind of make sense from Zayori saying that it might be good to check out Pokemon DB because it differentiates the moves based on if they're TM, egg moves, or tutor moves. And, I feel like for an in-game team, it's really important to kind of understand that because Smogon, it just gives you a quick rundown of all the moves it can learn, but it doesn't tell you, all right, it learns this move at this level or anything like that. So some of the moves that are great on a Pokemon, it might be like way later on in the game that you get. So what we're going to do is we're going to try out looking at the rest of the types through Pokemon database, so that way we can actually get a sense on what we can use as a really good in-game team. So for rock types, the very first one is actually a mythical rock type, and that is Diancie. Now Diancie here is Rock Fairy. It is a mythical Pokemon, so you're not going to be able to capture this thing in your normal playthrough. But I do want to kind of highlight some of the stats for this Pokemon. You can see here that it's got really good stats. It's got 150 defense and special defense. And it's got 100 attack and special attack. So most of the time, the mythical Pokemon, they're 100 across the board. This is one of the few mythicals, or one of the earlier mythicals, possibly, where they're actually being a little bit more specific in where they place the different stats. So, for example, Mew is 100 across the board. This one, they've taken 50 out of HP and speed and applied it to defense and special defense. And yeah, Diancie is a very bulky Pokemon, but you're not going to be able to catch this thing as an in-game team Pokemon. So, I mean, we're not really going to focus that much on this one. I just wanted to kind of highlight some of the stats that you can see there, because this is a really good rock fairy type. Next up is Lunatone. Lunatone is a Pokemon that might be best skipped because, I mean, its stats are not the best. We'll go ahead and take a look at the stats. I mean, it's got 90 HP, which is decent. Special attack is pretty good at 95, but, I mean, that's pretty much it. It's slow. It's not very bulky. It's easily knocked out. And you just, yeah, it's just not the best. And it's weak to quite a few things. If we go down to the moveset, I mean, you want the special attack to be your main focus. However, a lot of the moves that you get naturally are... Oh, actually, are we in Gen 6? Yeah, so a lot of the moves that you get naturally are actually physical moves, surprisingly. I mean, you get good staples like Psychic and Psywave. Moonblast is good, but you get that way later on. But, all your rock stab is going to be physical. Some TM moves, I mean, you could try to fill in some of those gaps with TMs, like Charge Beam, Shadow Ball. Decent moves, but, I mean, I think Lunatone itself is a Pokemon that's probably best skipped. So, if it was, up to me, I would say skip this Pokemon. It's not useful enough to actually be able to, hold its own as an in-game team Pokemon. Solrock has the same problem as Lunatone. The only difference is, you're taking that special attack and you're putting it in attack instead. They have the same typing. It's not the best typing, Rock Psychic. And they both kind of have the same problems when it comes to movesets. Solrock is more of a physical attacker. So, yeah, so you're going to probably focus more on your Rock Stab at that point. Because, Rock Throw, Rock Slice, Stone Edge. But your special Psychic moves are kind of not very well used here, like Psychic or Psywave here on this one. So, there are a few things that you could probably get for TM to kind of fill in that void. But if we look down here, a lot of some of the good moves that you can get are transfer only. So yeah, this Pokemon, I would say skip Solrock. It looks cool. That's really all it has. Its move pool is not that great. Its stats aren't the best. Its typing's not that great. Yeah, I would say skip that one. But not, excuse me, Barbaracle is an interesting Pokemon. So this is a rock water type, and if we scroll down to its stats, it has some pretty good stats. Good defense and good attack. You know, that's its best stats right there. 105 attack, decent. 115 defense. It can take a few hits. It isn't the fastest Pokemon. It is pretty slow. And its special bulk's not really the best either. So I feel like this is a Pokemon that would kind of struggle on your team. Now, if you're wanting a good physical water type, I mean, you could probably make this thing work. Just keep in mind that you're slow and you're going to rely on being able to take hits. And move pool wise, you know, now that we've differentiated the moves, you can see the level up moves. You don't really get that many great moves, you know, early on. Stone Edge is all the way here in 54. And Razor Shell, which is not the best water type move, that's what you're going to be running with for a huge, pretty much a huge chunk of the game until, say, you get something like Waterfall. Or you should be able to get Waterfall, I think. No? I don't even see Waterfall. If you see Waterfall, let me know in the comments. But yeah, looking like Razor Shell's really its best physical water move. Now, oh wait, we're looking at... Gotta keep in mind, this one we have to switch. Yeah, so, yeah, egg moves, nothing that great. Yeah, oh, it's even worse when you look at it this way. So yeah, Stone Edge is 60. 48 Razor Shell. You know, not the best. You do need TMs to help fill in some of the gaps. Like if you throw Earthquake on this thing, that would be good. Brick Break for coverage. You do get some pretty nice coverage options, though. Shadow Claw. Like I said, Stone Edge. You might get the TM before it learns it naturally, so I would throw that on there. Swords Dance is great. So yeah, move pool wise, I mean, you do get a wide variety of moves to fill in your gaps that you're naturally not going to learn. Might be able to go through a move relearner to get some of these moves back here, level 1 moves, to help you out quickly. But I think in Gen 6 you need a heart scale for that. So, I mean, if you have the heart scales or the TMs to fill in that moveset, I think Barbaracle, you could probably make it work. Just keep in mind, it's a little bit tougher than some of the other rock types that we're going to look at. But it is a pretty much an okay Pokemon. Next up, we've got Crustle. Now, Crustle is a bug rock Pokemon. So, typing-wise, that's actually a pretty cool typing. That gives you a resistance to normal and poison. However, you're weak to other rock types, to water types, to steel types. So, I mean, type-wise, it doesn't give you that many weaknesses. You're neutral to pretty much mostly everything. And you do have a decent stat distribution. 105 attack is good. 125 defense is really good. You could take some pretty good hits on this thing. Speed is 45, though, so that's going to make it where you're always going to get hit with something. So, you know, focusing on that defense is really important with this Pokemon. You do get, let's see, Sturdy. And I do like how this website actually shows you which one's the hidden ability. That's so helpful. But yeah, you get some really good things there. If we would, let's go ahead and scroll down. Look at some of the moves. Now, keep in mind, this is a physical attacker. So you want to focus on these physical attacks, such as Bug Bite. X-Scissor is probably your best bug-type move. Of course, you always need Stone Edge with a Pokemon like this. Rock Slide is good. Stone Edge would be your TM once you get that. Rock Wrecker, that's 55, but that is a really high-powered rock-type move. That's up to you if you want that one. Stone Edge, I feel like, would be pretty do pretty well. I mean, Stone Edge does have less accuracy and less damage, but I mean, Rock Wrecker as a move, no, what's this doing? Yeah, Rock Wrecker does have less battle points, or power points rather. So yeah, I mean, it's really up to you. Well, actually, Stone Edge actually has 5 as well. So I guess it's up to you. Wait for Rock Wrecker. I mean, Stone Edge would help you out in a big chunk of that. You know, Poison Jab for coverage, great. You can also go something like Shadow Claw, Aerial Ace if you don't want to rely too much on low accuracy moves. Earthquake gives you good coverage. So yeah, I do think Crystal is a Pokemon you could probably make it work. Just keep in mind you're slower. Your defense is where you should be putting your focus, and so is attack. And just kind of keep in mind your moves, what moves you want to run with this thing. And you could probably make this thing work. I love Crystal. I've used it before. It's a good Pokemon. Now, Relicanth is one of those gimmicky Pokemon, and really it's not like a battle gimmick that it's known for. It's just a gimmick of world building, and it's because it's a super old fish. And if we scroll down here, we can see some of the stats that we've got on this thing. This thing has great defense. It has okay attack, but, you know, good HP too. Its special and speed stats are pretty low, so it's more physical than anything else. And, you know, Water Rock is a pretty cool typing. So, yeah, I like the stat distribution, but with this Pokemon, it is kind of tough to make it work. And if we would, let's go ahead and scroll down to the moveset, because if there's one thing about Relicanth, you know, it's not really known for having a great moveset. We can see here, naturally, through level up, it gets an okay move, like Rock Tomb is okay. But that's really all that it gets. Remember, you want this thing to be a physical attacker, so if you're throwing a water gun on it, you're not getting the best out of this Pokemon. Same thing with a Hydro Pump. So a move like Dive would actually be better. So yeah, you know, move pool wise, you don't really get the best options until way later on, like Head Smash, almost level 80. And, you know, you're going to have to be grinding in the post game to get something good like that. Now, you're going to rely on TMs with Relicanth, and Earthquake is a great choice. You know, Rock Polish will help you out because you're so slow. Stone Edge, you kind of need Stone Edge. You know, you get some egg moves that are pretty decent, like Zen Headbutt for coverage, but for the most part, your move pool is pretty limited. You're not going to be able to do much. Waterfall is like your water stab of choice. Stone Edge probably is going to be your rock type move of choice, and you need to have, you know, items to teach those. So yeah, Relicanth might be a Pokemon that I would skip. I mean, its gimmick is just that it's an ancient fish. That's pretty much it. Other than that, you know, I would skip this thing. Now, Rhyperior. Now, this is a Pokemon that I do have to admit that I love Rhyperior. This is a great rock and ground type Pokemon. It's got good abilities. Lightning Rod is great. In double battles, you can draw in special attacks, or I mean, draw in electric attacks. And that will help protect, say, if you have something weak out there to electric. Solid Rock is also a great ability that reduces the damage you take from super effective moves, which is really important with Rhyperior because it does have some things that it's weak to. You know, Rock Ground, you're super weak to things like grass and water. So, I mean, you don't want to necessarily get hit with those things, even with Solid Rock, but that could actually help you survive where you naturally would just fall. Now, stat-wise, look at the stat distribution. 130 defense, 140 attack, 115 HP. I love this Pokemon. This is a great stat distribution. Keep in mind that your speed and special stats are pretty low. Like, seems to be a very common thing with a lot of these rock types. They're mostly focused on their physical side of their stats. But yeah, keep in mind that you're low on that side, so you do not want to get hit with a, like, say, a Surf or anything like that. And I do appreciate how this thing over here, you can change the type defensiveness based off of its ability. So, yeah, you throw it in there. It gives you an idea of, okay, I'll take less damage from, you know, say, grass type. It's only 3 times instead of 4 times. I do appreciate that. I do think it was a good idea to switch to this website just because it does give me some things that Smogon doesn't really give. But let's look at the moveset, because Rhyperior does have a pretty cool moveset. Maybe not 100% through level up, but TMs, it gives you a lot of good options. So by level up, we can see good coverage moves like Mega Horn, good rock moves like Rock Wrecker. You get Drill Run. Now this is later on, but you know, Earthquake, which I would say you'd probably have the TM beforehand. And let's look at some of these TMs, because you get some really cool moves with TM. Earthquake, of course, that's going to be your ground stab 100%. You can either go Stone Edge or Rock Wrecker for rock type moves. If we would, let's go ahead and look at some of these other moves like Shadow Claw for coverage. You can throw Swords Dance on this thing, and Swords Dance is actually really cool. Poison Jab to hit some of those fairy types. Power Up Punch, that can give you coverage and also give you a stat boost, which is a really great you know, thing if you're wanting to boost up that thing. That attack stat. I would say Rock Polish would be good. Now, you know, I do have a thing against Pokemon that, you know, you need to boost up a stat, but, you know, this thing can actually take hits because of its ability and its bulk. And Rock Polish is going to boost up your speed 2 times. So, if we go back up here to that speed stat, we can see that with 1 Rock Polish, 40 turns into pretty much like around 80. You can kind of think of it that way. It's not like 1-to-1, but it's kind of like a quick shorthand of thinking about it. So, I mean, 80 is still not the fastest, but that's way better. If you pair this with, like, say, a Trick Room Pokemon, that would be pretty cool. You do get some coverage options if you do want to, you know, go into breeding for your team. Fire Fang, Ice Fang, and Thunder Fang are really cool coverages. Crunch, and Dragon Rush, that gives you a Dragon type move. Iron Tail even. So yeah, you know, you do get some really good moves. You do get a lot of special moves, and I think that's just a holdover from Gen 1 days where almost everything got the power hitting special moves like Ice Beam and Thunderbolt. But really, you know, keep in mind with Rhyperior, those moves are not going to do much because you're here with 55 special attack. So I do think Rhyperior is a great Pokemon. Keep in mind, you do need to trade it to get its final form, and you have to have the Protector item, which a lot of times is a post-game item. But, I mean, if we even look at Rhydon, you know, Rhydon has a lot of the same things, just a little bit lower stats-wise. So I do think this is a Pokemon that, you know, if you really want a Rhyperior, keep in mind most of the stuff you do with it is going to be post-game stuff, but yeah, it is a great Pokemon. I do love Rhyperior. Next up is Tyrantrum. Now, Tyrantrum is probably one of my favorite rock-type Pokemon now. Just because it can do so many things. Now, let's take a look at this thing, because it's actually a very unique rock-type Pokemon. It is rock dragon type. I honestly, at this point, I don't think there has been another rock dragon type. Correct me if I'm wrong in that, but I still think that this is the only rock dragon type. It's a T-Rex, a Tyrannosaurus Rex. That's a cool concept. This is probably the coolest fossil Pokemon. And if we look at the stat distribution, I mean, most of the weaknesses that we get from this thing is from that rock typing. I mean, yeah, most of the weaknesses are from the rock typing, but having that rock typing does give it a few more toys to play around with, resistance-wise, like normal and flying types. But, yeah, this is probably one of the coolest Pokemon here introduced in X and Y. And let's look at the stats. 121 attack. That is good. That thing can hit really hard. 119 defense. It can actually take some hits, too. Keep in mind, special defense is pretty dismal. You don't want to get hit with that, and your speed is not the best. And, you know, with this Pokemon, Rock Polish could be a good usage here, because that 71 speed, once you Rock Polish up, it's going to be super duper fast. Abilities-wise, Strong Jaw boosts the power of biting type moves, and you do get some really good, you know, Fang type moves, and we'll actually look at those. So yeah, let's look at how good some of these moves are. Yeah, so you start out with things like Head Smash, you know, Dragon Tail, Dragon Claw is good once you get to 37. Really good moves, Earthquake. Now, Let's look at some of these TM moves, because I would say probably the move that you're going to use the most is probably Head Smash. Keep in mind, you know, your hidden ability is the Rock Head ability, so you're going to, if in your gameplay, you're going to be running the Strong Jaw ability, and there are some jaw moves that we can probably make work. Now, yeah, most of those jaw boosting moves are from your egg moves, but we'll go ahead and look at what you get naturally, like Crunch. If we look over here, some coverage moves, Earthquake, of course. Brick Break for coverage is pretty cool. Dragon Tail, you get that through TM. So you do get some decent moves here. You're probably going to be mostly running with that Dragon Claw, the Head Smash, or even, let's see, maybe even Stone Edge. But if you do decide that you would like to breed to get, you know, decent moves, Dragon Dance, you can get that through breeding. Fire Fang, Ice Fang, Poison Fang, and Thunder Fang. I do think it's interesting that, you know, the moves that you get, you know, that actually help you out with your Strong Jaw ability actually come from breeding. So keep that in mind. That boost is going to help you out. But yeah, I do think this is a great Pokemon. You know, you get some decent moves, you get some good options, you got good stats, you got a cool type combination that this is the only Pokemon with that type combination. I think Tyrantrum would be a great Rock-type Pokemon if you decide you want to use it. I thought I had Aurorus. Alright, I pulled up Aurorus. I seem to have forgotten Aurorus, so yeah, I went ahead and pulled up Aurorus. Yeah, so on the opposite side of the fossil Pokemon, Aurorus would be what you get with the Cell fossil. And let's take a look at this thing. Now, this thing is meant to be more of a bulky Pokemon. And, you know, the downside of this Pokemon is it is Rock-Ice type. Not the best type combination, especially if you're wanting a bulky Pokemon that's meant to take hits and survive. So the type combination really does give you a lot of weaknesses. We can see here, yeah, you get a lot of weaknesses. But, you know, you do have some good stats to go with this Pokemon. 123 HP is really good. You got good special defense. You actually have good special attack as well. And your ability Refrigerate will turn every normal type move that you use into an ice type move. And we'll actually talk about some of the movesets that we can look at that actually take advantage of this specific ability, because that's actually a cool ability. So yeah, I think this is a cool Pokemon. It's just not really going to hold up. And we'll look at this move to get an idea of what moves might work best. So Freeze Dry, that is an Ice-type move that is super effective against Water-type Pokemon. I would say that would be a great option to go for. Icy Wind if you want to slow things down. And, you know, Aurorus is not the fastest Pokemon, so maybe that would help you out. Aurora Beam's probably going to be your go-to Ice Stab for a while. You don't really get the greatest Rock-type moves with any special Rock-type Pokemon, but Ancient Power is probably going to be the thing that you stick on this thing and it stays on there pretty much forever. In terms of Ice-type Stab, remember, you do get the Refrigerate ability, so, of course, a move like Hyper Beam becomes Ice-type. And we can look at some of the TM moves, because you get some decent TM moves that would actually help you out. Moves like Thunderbolt. Remember, this is a special attacking rock type, so Thunderbolt actually would do well on your Pokemon. Moves like Charge Beam if you want to boost up your special attack. Frost Breath, that's always a critical hit. You could probably make that work. Dark Pulse for coverage. If you want to, you can throw things like Dragon Tail just to force the opponent to switch out. And, you know, moves like that are actually really cool. A lot of people run Hyper Voice on this. I don't know. Let me see. I guess Hyper Voice... thought it was a TM in this game, but I guess... yeah. I might be misremembering another Pokemon in this place. But I do think, you know, moves like Psychic, Thunderbolt, you do get a lot of good coverage with this Pokemon. You do get some decent stab options. But yeah, I do think this is a Pokemon you could make work. I feel like Auroras, if they had went all in on this special attacker idea for this Pokemon, it would be a way better Pokemon. It really would. But the fact that they try to go more of a bulky, slow Pokemon with a Rock Ice type, it's more of a challenge than Tyrantrum. But I can see you making it work okay on your team. Just keep in mind, you know, it's a hard hitter, but it's not going to be taking hits very hard. Next rock type, another fossil Pokemon, is actually Aerodactyl. Now, Aerodactyl is a pretty cool Pokemon. And we also have the advantage in this game that we get Mega Aerodactyl. So we'll look at base Aerodactyl first. Then we'll go and look at what Mega Aerodactyl brings to the table. But let's go ahead and look at some of these abilities like Rock Head. That's pretty cool. Pressure is more of more of a defensive ability. Stats-wise, this thing is got 130 speed, 105 attack. So this thing can actually hit things pretty well. Yeah, so if we scroll down here, take a look at the moveset, because this thing does actually get some cool moves with it. You get things like Thunder Fang, and these are through level up, so as soon as you get it, if you get a mover learner, you can get some of these great Fang type moves. I really feel like this is something they should have done with Tyrantrum to help it out, but oh well. Anyway, Thunder Fang, Ice Fang, Fire Fang for coverage. Iron Head is good coverage. When you're looking at stab options, you might be better off looking at the TM moves for stab, because you get Rock Slide way late in the game, which doesn't make sense, because most rock types get this earlier on. You gotta wait late game. So let's look at what we can get through TM to help us out with stab. Well, of course, Stone Edge is going to be your main go-to. You also get things like Earthquake, which that's also good coverage right there. Flying type moves, you don't get the best flying type moves. I mean, you can see Skydrop here, but that's a 2-turn move. Aerial Ace, I would put Aerial Ace above Wing Attack, because you don't have to worry about accuracy with Aerial Ace. They're pretty much the same move, only Aerial Ace is way better. So yeah, flying type stab, you don't really get that great flying type stab. You can see through transfer, you still don't even get good flying type stab. So mostly you're going to be running rock type moves, maybe Earthquake for coverage, other moves like Dragon Claw, just physical coverage moves are mostly what you're going to be running with this Pokemon. Other than that, I do think this is a great Pokemon. Keep in mind that moveset, because we're going to click Mega Aerodactyl and see what this thing can bring. Oh my goodness. 150 speed. You're outspeeding pretty much everything thrown at you. 135 attack. This is a beast of insanity. So I think Aerodactyl is a great rock-type Pokemon. You hit hard. You do a lot of damage. You do get some good coverage options. I say if you want a rock flying type Pokemon on your team, Aerodactyl is a great choice. Next up is Probopass. Now, this is an interesting Pokemon. It is Rock Steel, and it is meant to just be bulk, and that was pretty much the only intention for this Pokemon. You can see Rock Steel is a very good defensive typing, because you have so many resistances. You actually have, you know, a lot of good common resistances. So I would say type-wise, this is a great Pokemon. Stats-wise, keep in mind this is a wall. And if you set up a brick wall somewhere, you're probably not going to expect it to hit anyone. And that's kind of the expectation you need to have for Probopass. You've got 150 special defense and 145 defense. This is a great, bulky Pokemon. For your in-game team, most of the time you want some offensive pressure, so you can throw it out there and actually knock out some of the gym leaders, knock out some of the things. But yeah, if you need a bulky Rock Steel Pokemon, this is a good choice. Let's look at the move pool, because, I mean, it's not the best moves for a wall on level up, but we'll look at some other things that this thing could bring to help you out. Starting with moves like... for coverage, probably Rock Blast. Now, if we go back to take a look at stats, special attack is higher than physical attack. So you're not going to necessarily want to rely on things like Rock Blast. You want to eventually get rid of that and put Power Gem on this Pokemon. Power Gem's actually really good for this Pokemon. With TM, Flash Cannon. Let's see, I do think you get Flash Cannon. You should get Flash Cannon. Yeah, Flash Cannon. Flash Cannon is good. Dazzling Gleam is good if you want some more offensive moves. Remember, this is more of a bulky Pokemon, so I would say throw Toxic on it, and that might help you out. Magnet Rise is a good tech move because you are 4 times weak to ground. With Magnet Rise, well, then you just rise up out of the way of those ground-type moves. Rest for recovery, you could probably make that work. Gravity is an interesting move. It sets up the gravity condition, which makes flying types fall to the ground. Levitate Pokemon now fall to the ground. It's really cool if you're like running something with a lot of ground-type moves. It actually boosts accuracy of your moves too, so that's cool tech. But, you know, most of the time you're going to be trying to go through the game by being offensive. And if you want to do that, you know, maybe Probopass isn't the best choice because it's a wall. But say, you know, maybe post-game you need something that has bulk. Or maybe on your in-game team, say you want to run something that if your main Pokemon is weak, you can switch it out. Heal it up with a potion and let something go out there and take hits for a little bit. Hey, you could probably use this for that specific role. But for like most in-game teams, it probably would be best not to use this Pokemon. Gigalith is a pretty cool Rock-type Pokemon. Here, it has the ability Sturdy. I don't remember when they gave it Sandstream. I don't remember if it was this generation. I don't think it was. Yeah, so right here, it does not have the Sandstream ability. So, Sturdy is what you're most likely working with. You know, stats-wise, though, it is a good stat distribution. 135 attack, 130 defense. Good stats right there. It is super slow, so if you're, like, running something with Trick Room, keep this Pokemon in the back of your mind. So, yeah, this Pokemon, though, let's look at the move stats. Remember, it has really good attack, really good defense, so you want to keep that in mind when picking out moves for it. And I would say, like, Stone Edge, even Rock Slide for early on might be good. Rock Blast. You know, that's really your stab type moves. You do get some other options that you can throw on this thing. Of course, Earthquake, always a good choice if you've got a physical attacker that can learn it. You can throw things like Rock Smash. Not really the best option. So, I mean, move pool wise, you're mostly focused on like maybe Earthquake for coverage, Stone Edge for stab. You could throw Explosion on it for a big like attempt to take something out. But yeah, this is a Pokemon that, you know, it knows what it does. It does what it does well. It takes hits. It hits things back with rock type moves. I do think you could make this Pokemon work. Keep in mind that its special stats not the best, and it's slow. That's the main thing. Keep in mind it's slow. It hits things hard. You could probably make it work. Carbink here is a rock fairy type, just like Diancie is. And if we look at this Pokemon, it has some of the same problems as, say, Probopass. It is meant to be a wall. Now, it's not as good of a wall as Probopass is. I mean, it's got 150 defense, 150 special defense, but its HP is not the best, and everything else is low. So, yeah, it's really not going to be doing much offensively on your team. It's meant just to take hits, and it doesn't do that completely great because, you know, your HP is kind of on the low end. You could probably make it work as a wall, but that's really it. It's just a wall. It's a rock fairy type wall, and you do get some cool moves with this thing. Keep in mind you want to use it as a wall, so you can throw Light Screen on it. That would be good. Reflect is actually a good move for this Pokemon. I would say TM for Light Screen is more likely what you'll go with it. Since it is 50 attack and special attack, you could throw moves like Moonblast, Stone Edge, Power Gem, whatever, just to have an attacking move. But keep in mind, this thing is a wall, and that's what it's trying to be. You could use it as a Trick Room setter. Say you want to run your slower Rhyperior. This is a Pokemon that could set that up for you. You can run setup moves, which you know, might actually help you out, like Calm Mind. You can run Calm Mind and then get a special attack boost that helps you out. But, I mean, really, if you're relying on boosting up before you can do anything, it might be best not to use that Pokemon that single-handedly relies on some form of setup. So I would say this is a Pokemon that probably would be best skipped. Next up is Corsola. Water Rock type. We've already seen this typing before. I do think that the other Water Rock types are way better, because if we look at these stats, it wants to be a wall Pokemon, but it just doesn't have what it really takes to be a wall Pokemon. It's slow, can't hit things hard, it doesn't do much in return. So if we look at the moveset, we'll go ahead and look at the moveset, but you probably already got a sense of what I think about this one. I mean, recover is probably a required move on this thing. Mirror Coat, that's very situational, but that's probably going to be the thing that gives you the most damage output on this Pokemon. Ancient Power might help you out. You might get a stat boost with that. Maybe Aqua Ring to set up for your next Pokemon that'll come out. You could probably use it as like a Rain Dancer. You know, maybe even use it for Sunny Day. Just, you know, set things up. Toxic, you could try to run Calm Mind. But really, you're not doing much with this Pokemon, because it's just stat-wise not the best. Move pool-wise, it's not doing much. And there's other bulky Pokemon that does this job better. So I would say this is, if you want to challenge run, maybe Corsola is the go-to. I would say skip it, though. Now, Golem is a rock ground type Pokemon. It has some of the same features as Rhyperior, but I would say not as good as Rhyperior. Let's look at these stats. 120 attack, 130 defense. That's good. Special defense is pretty bad. Speed is bad. Yeah, so I mean, stat-wise, it's a physical attacker through and through. Rock ground. That's a pretty okay type combination. I mean, I do feel like Rhyperior is better with that. And move pool wise, I mean, you get things like Earthquake on level up. You're probably going to be running probably Rock Blast for a while before you can get Stone Edge through TM. Earthquake TM is great. You do get a lot of weird special moves that is kind of a holdover from Gen 1 days where everything got Flamethrower. But yeah, it's the same idea here. Stone Edge. Maybe you could throw Gyro Ball for coverage for some of those fairy types. But other than that, you know, it's pretty much the same idea as Rhyperior. It's just not as good as Rhyperior. So, I mean, if you're a Golem stan, maybe this would work on your team. Just keep in mind, I feel like Rhyperior outclasses this thing. And there might be other rock types that are better at being offensive threats because they don't have to rely on that slow speed. Now, Aggron. Now, this is a Pokemon that I do have to admit, I really do like Aggron. Steel Rock. We've already seen that typing before. That is a great typing. And this thing is meant to be a bulky behemoth. Look at that. 180 defense. This thing is meant to take hits. And it can actually hit back with a 110 attack. So, I think stat-wise, this is a good stat distribution. Just keep in mind, you know, same problem with most rock types. Its special side is kind of neglected, and so is its speed. But we can see here, if we look at the move pool, I mean, you get this at level 42, so it will be a Pokemon that you get later on. But I do feel like it might be worth it if you're really wanting a rock type that has that steel type, that has some good bulk to it. Because if we look at some of the moves that it can learn, you can throw Iron Tail on this Pokemon, Iron Head. That's a little bit more accurate. Over here for TMs, of course, Earthquake for coverage, Stone Edge for stab. It does get a lot of special moves. Keep in mind, though, you're not going to be relying on that special because it's 60 special attack. So things like Blizzard and Ice Beam might be best skipped. Dragon Claw is good for coverage. Earthquake, like I said. Brick Break is pretty cool. You can get Aerial Ace, which could be coverage. Could be like if you are constantly missing. It is a lower attack, though, so I don't know if I would necessarily rely on it. Dragon Tail to force the opponent to switch out. Power Up Punch will boost your attack. And you do get some things like Rock Polish that will help you out with your speed. Even Thunder Wave on this Pokemon could help you out if you find yourself being slower than a lot of things. And then if you want to breed Pokemon to try to get some better moves, you can get things like Dragon Rush or Curse, Body Slam, which helps you out with, Thunder Waving things. So with this Pokemon, you do get some really good moves. You do get some really good options. It has good coverage, has good stab. I would say this is a solid pick if you find yourself wanting not only a rock type, but also a steel type, because it can do its job pretty well. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at Tyranitar. Now, this is probably one of the most commonly thought of rock types, or because it is a pseudo-legendary. Rock Dark is a cool typing. Keep in mind, you do have a lot of weaknesses with that type combination. Stat-wise, you get some great stat distribution. 134 attack. I'll come back to what I just realized I forgot. But 134 attack is great. Good bulk across the board. You actually have some decent special, too. Keep in mind, this is a late-game edition. And look at the move pool. It gets some good moves. Fire Fang, Ice Fang, Thunder Fang. If you want special moves, Dark Pulse, Crunch is a good stab. Earthquake for coverage. Stone Edge for stab. You can look over here. You get things like Thunderbolt as well. You also get Surf on this bad boy. Dragon Claw, Blizzard. This is a Pokemon that's kind of like Aggron, but it can actually make use of these special moves. Shadow Claw coverage. Dragon Tail for coverage. Power Up Punch to boost up. Dark Pulse, like we've already looked at. So yeah, you get some good moves on this thing. Now, you do get, with this Pokemon, you also get a Mega Form. And we'll look at that. And I do want to go back to Aggron, because I did forget to mention its Mega Form. But yeah, stat-wise, this thing just becomes even more of a threat. 164 attack, 120 special defense, 150 defense. And with its ability, Sandstream, rock types get a boost in special defense. So 120 special defense actually gets boosted up. So this is a bulky Pokemon. You can run things like Dragon Dance to do a lot of work with it. It rips through everything. This is a solid pick for rock type Pokemon. And if we look at Mega Aggron, I did want to mention it because, Aggron is a rock type. Mega Aggron loses its rock typing, but I think it's still important to mention this one. It gets crazy defense. That's really, if you want an idea of what makes Mega Aggron different than Aggron, it's crazy defense. It's all the way up to 230. So it's a super good bulky tank. Out of these two, though, I would say, Mega Tyranitar does give you more offensive pressure on both special and physical attack stats. But if you want something that's more of a tank that's meant to go in and take hits while you're trying to heal something up, maybe Mega Aggron is better. And last up, and I do think this is actually the last rock type in the XY decks. You can correct me if I'm wrong in that, but I think it's funny that we see all these hard-hitting rock types near the end, and then we find Sudowoodo, and it's just funny that it ends with Sudowoodo. Sudowoodo is not a good Pokemon. I mean, it has decent attack and defense. That's really it. It's not the bulkiest, because 70 HP plus, 65 special defense, you're taking hits pretty bad. Don't even bother special attack. You are slow. And, it's not the best Pokemon. I mean, you do get some options. You could probably make it work. Like Rock Throw, Wood Hammer for coverage. You can get Sucker Punch. That helps you out because you are super slow. And you do get things like, say, Stone Edge. That's probably going to be your stab of choice. Power Up Punch. So, yeah, I mean, you do get some things that you could probably use to make this thing work. But I think, it's funny that this is, so late in the game on this Dex. And it's such a mid Pokemon. I think at this point you should have a better rock type if you're going to use a rock type at all. Hey, if you want to make a challenge for yourself, maybe run this thing. Maybe you're a Sudowoodo stan. But otherwise, I would say skip it. So that's all the rock types. If you are going to use a rock type, let me know down in the comments. Let me know which rock type you're going to use. Do you think me using Pokemon DB makes more sense because it differentiates the different moves based on level up and TM and egg moves? Let me know in the comments. Give a thumbs up, subscribe. I will see you in the next Pokemon video.